Right on. Well, looks like everyone is here now. So let me just start by saying hello. My name is Jeremy Dugan, for those of you who don't know me. But yeah, I appreciate you all showing up to this. This is, a really fun one. And for me, I love wild agave. I think it's one of the I love agave in general, tequila, mezcals, all of them. For me, there's a lot of range there, and it's just a really unique spirit. And, I'm very excited to have with us today Jed Wolf, who is the owner of Luneta and Luneta Small Batch. And I met Jed at the beginning of April or mid-April, I believe. And it was just really cool because he's a young cat like me who's, doing some really cool things. He's getting out there and, changing up how agave is seen, in my opinion, and how it's done, because there are a lot of people right now, or there's a lot of people who have the ability to go down to Mexico and put their label on some hard work that other people do, and then later sell that off for a lot of money. Where Jed is actually taking part of working with these families, helping them, making sure that the families who are making this product that we're able to taste tonight are getting taken care of in the ways that they need to be. So that's just a little intro. I'll jump in from time to time, just with thoughts and opinions if I have them. But yeah, let me hand it off to Jed.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for having me here.
Can we have everybody? Hey, guys, can we have everybody else mute? Because I had a hard time understanding you with all the background noise and some of the other callers. Can we mute everybody except for this?
Thank you so much for saying that.
And then unmute. We have a question.
For sure, yeah.
Great. Yeah, I see Laura is not muted still.
They're taking care of that right now.
Cool, thanks. Great. Awesome. Yeah, that sounds much crisper. Hey, so yeah, again, Jeremy, thanks so much for having me here. I just love agave spirits and the culture behind it. So it's a pleasure for me to chat with you guys and share a little bit about the project and about the history and how it's made and the people behind it. So, and thank everybody else for being here tonight and drinking with us and exploring. And yeah, I think that just now that everyone's here, just to touch a little bit on what is an agave spirit. And we're most familiar with tequila, like Jeremy was saying, which is the Blue Weber agave, and that is the most cultivated, usually 5 to 8 years or so in the ground. And the thing, like Jeremy pointed out, is there's a denomination of origin within 5 regions, predominantly Jalisco. And when you get into mezcal, there's 9 regions. Most of the mezcal comes out of Oaxaca, and there's also a denomination of origin that, as well as it has to be made from agave, but it also has to go through a certification process with a regulatory body called the Consejo Regulador de Mezcal, or the CRM. And the CRM also requires the producers to pay a lot of money and also go, and it's kind of intrusive process for them. They also have to fill out a lot of paperwork. And the reason that we don't certify as mezcal is because it is difficult for the producers that we're working with to do that kind of stuff, both financially and administratively. And these Luneta is moving batches that are 80 to 160 liters. So they're very small batch. And also what happens when it is registered or certified, sometimes the regulatory body requires you to water it down rather than just have it 100% pure agave, if there are certain trace chemicals in it. But I don't like to drink my agave spirits with any water in them. So these are 100% pure agave. They're all still proof, meaning a lot of the stuff that you find is 35 to 40, 42%. This is all just like the people like to drink it in the towns. And they are actually mezcal, because mezcal, the word mezcal has been used for hundreds of years to describe these exact spirits. And they are actually also within the denomination of origin, but just like in the early 2000s, the Mexican government essentially controlled the word mezcal. And that's what the CRM is really protecting, not necessarily protecting the people or the traditions behind true mezcal. And so this is mezcal in its purest form, but it's not certified. So, yeah. But a little bit about Luneta and the brand. It is a passion project that I've started. I'm the owner of the brand as well as the importer and distributor. And the whole idea is to highlight these wild heirloom varieties of agaves throughout Mexico, as well as the traditional elaboration processes in how they're made. So tonight we're going to be tasting expressions from different producers, and each one is a small family or community, like, or a single person who's making them. And so these are the way, like, literally these spirits, this could have been done pre-industrial revolution, this kind of stuff. So that's something that I find fascinating, is that, you know, we're in such a technologically driven world, but these super high quality and heirloom agave spirits could literally have been, we could have been drinking this stuff 200 years ago. But yeah, let's get into it. So I like to start with the Tobala, which is it's the blue one right here. Yeah. And yeah, that's the one. And so one thing that I like to do before we drink it, though, I like to kind of take people through a style of how I like to drink it or to present that. And one thing I would recommend is everybody has some water next to their with their tasting, so that between the different expressions that we're going to drink, that we can clean our palates. So I'll just wait a sec. I see some folks are getting up to grab some water. Cool. And then Jeremy, I don't know where you went. I'm like, if you want to also talk to, everything is super quiet because everybody is off. So I'm like, you know, talking
For sure,
to the
yeah.
black box here, but
yeah, so when Jed and I sat down the first time to try these, I was very excited because Tobala has been one of my favorite agaves that I've tried throughout my experience with mezcal or wild agave as a whole. So the fact that he was like, "Oh, let's start with this one," I was like, "Okay, let's see how this goes," and I'm very excited.
Yeah, and so yeah, the Tobala is oh, right. Before we start drinking, I wanted to share how I like to drink. So we got the water there, but I like to pour it, and then I essentially I like to smell it before. And something that the mezcaleros do sometimes to really smell the agave is that take their finger and just took a little drip of in their finger and rub it on their hand, and then kind of smell it there. And you get a lingering smell of the agave itself. And each agave has its own totally distinct flavor profile. So that's something you can do, kind of like aromatically dive in. Another thing, when I do drink mezcal, I like to drink it like sipping slowly. And the first sip, after I've been smelling it a little bit, I like to swish it around in my mouth, kind of just a little bit, just like mouthwash kind of. And then after you get it all throughout your entire palate, then you swallow. And then on the second sip, just take a little bit more in your mouth. And then after you can do the swishing around again in your mouth, but then and swallow, and then kind of open your mouth like this, like to breathe in a little bit. And so the first sip of any mezcal is the one that's going to be most abrasive, or any alcohol really, to your palate. The second one, you're going to start to get used to it, And then in the third sip, it's really gonna that's the road that you're gonna travel on throughout. And different flavor notes start to come up again and again, but it is definitely most important out of all that is the slow sipping, not shooting. So yeah, let's do it. So with the Tobala, this particular expression is made in Oaxaca by a woman named Angelica Garcia Vasquez. And it's she uses agaves that are usually like 8 to 12 years old. So before they mature in the they have to mature. And when I say that, that means that you can only agaves should be harvested when they are going to give their flower. But right before they actually give the flower itself, you cut that stalk, and that flower never is formed. But all the juices that were going to go into the flower go into the heart of the agave itself. And that's where you get the most juicy, sweetest agave. So yeah, this one is like around 8 to 10 years or so to grow, the Tobala. And it's roasted below ground with mesquite and encino wood. And then it's milled with a tahona, which is a large grindstone drawn by a horse. And then Angelica, she will ferment it in cypress wood and distill it in a small copper still. And this batch is about 150 liters. So when you're talking about small batch, like a pretty popular brand, for example, is Fortaleza. They do around 180,000 bottles per year, which are 750 ml. So like maybe 130,000 liters is considered small batch. Angelica, she's producing 150 liters a month.
That's tiny batch.
Extremely small batch. All of these, just in terms of giving you the scale of like what's being called small batch today versus Luneta. It's like my pinky nail, if like the fist was small batch. Yeah, but anyway, so I'd love to hear like what people are experiencing with that. Anybody have any like flavor notes or what kind of smells, aromas, tastes? How are you experiencing it? If anybody wants to share.
Well, I'll start just a general. What I really liked about all of your products, and especially this one, is how lean the smoke is in there. So you don't get a whole lot of that like big like just char or you big like fire pit kind of notes. So it allows you to taste a lot of what the agave actually is. Like you do get a little bit of that hickory, you do get a little bit of that woodsiness, but really I get some really nice like, it's kind of more of like a cracked pepper, like a cracked black pepper, just like freshness in there. And there is a little bit of like a stone fruit. I can't exactly place it right now, but let me take another sip and I'll let you know.
Nice. Yeah, Jeremy, I love that you bring that up about the smoke, because a lot of folks will say, oh yeah, mezcal, it's like tequila's smoky cousin, right? But there are so many flavors and so many different aromas that go into quality mezcal that there is a huge expanse of flavor profiles. And like actually when you have a really smoky mezcal, it means that the piñas or the hearts of the agaves were actually burnt a little too much in the roast. And so when I'm looking for mezcals or agave spirits like this, uncertified mezcal, I look for two things. And the primary thing is I look for the flavor of the agave itself. And so different agaves have different flavors. Like for me, the Tobala, it's got definitely some like floral, herbal, like almost chocolatey notes. And it's very rounded, like very, very smooth, easy to drink. And then the other thing that I will look for is the hand of the maker. And so you have, like I said, the agave, the flavor of that particular agave, as well as the hand of the maker. And the next expression that also I recommend in terms of the quantities that we're drinking here, these are all like I said, very high proof. So I recommend like drinking just a little bit of the bottles of the 50 mLs. I mean, if you want to keep going, but just like at least for the first round, and then you can enjoy it with yourself throughout the evening with the rest of them. But just they pack a punch. We'll say that.
Yeah, like this Tobola is 44%. So that's, I mean, you're almost at 90 proof there. So as Jed was saying earlier, most of the agaves that you see on the shelves are, in that 30 to 35 range. So yeah, that's a good note, Jed. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So the next expression here in the lineup is one that I would like to visit is the Papalomet, which is the red. It's got a red label. Yeah. Yes, the Papalomet. And with something that I like to highlight here, we were just talking about, the hand of the maker versus the flavor of the agave itself. And so Tobala is scientifically known as Potatorum, the Potatorum agave family. In Oaxaca, it's called Tobala. In Puebla, that same Potatorum agave, it's called Papalomet. And so it's just a different, essentially colloquial word for the same agave. And so we're trying the same type of agave, but made by a completely different mezcalero. And so we're going to taste the flavor notes that come from the hand of the maker in this. And the mezcalero who produces the Papalomet, his name is Abdias de la Luz Rodriguez. And Abdias, he roasts his agaves, but this batch particularly, mostly with eucalyptus wood in below ground. And that's compared to the mesquite and a little bit of encino from Angelica. Then in the fermentation, he actually ferments in bull hide, in small bull skins that are, and so he ferments the entire cooked agave hearts in those bull skins, and then he mills it by hand. So the last one was the Tobala was milled by a tahona, a grindstone drawn by a horse. This one is men essentially smashing it with a large wooden hammer, and that's how they're milling it. And then he puts that back into the bull hide. So this is also fermented twice instead of the last one was fermented once. So and in those bull hides, they do the hairs in. So that's a stylistic choice. They can do hairs in or hairs out. And then in the distillation, they're using a small copper pot still, and then on the first distillation, and then the second distillation is with a stainless steel on the bottom, but then a hollowed out coral tree trunk on the top. And I would like to ask Jeremy, if you would, to show some photos at this point that I passed over to you, particularly of those bull hides with Abdias there, the mezcalero, as well as the still, that the top of the still, so you guys can kind of see and get a little bit more of a sense of how Abdias and his family have been making these spirits for hundreds of years.
So is this Abdias right here?
Yes, that is Abdias. That he is the master behind the Papalomet. And
I mean, with that lean, he looks like the master. Like he just looks like he knows what he's doing, man. He's like, yep. Y'all here to check this out?
Yeah, 100%. And Abdias, he's kind of like a slow guy, not slow like mentally slow. Just he does things with time and with takes his time. And I feel like Abdias, he kind of is like an agave himself. He grows slowly and matures.
He matures when he wants to. He'll let you know when everything's ready.
Exactly. He gets sweeter over time. Let's say that.
Nice.
But there he is, in front of the bull skins, the bull hide. I don't know if you can push in a little bit on the photo to kind of show folks.
Yes. All right. Let me see. There we go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and if you could scroll down a little bit, but you see him. Those are those bull hides that they're using for fermentation, and Abdias and his family have been using many of these methods, including the bull hides as well as the hand milling and that coral tree trunk still, hollowed out coral tree trunk. Like if you, Jeremy, could bring that photo up
Yeah, let me
as
get
well,
that
that'd
one
be
in
great.
here.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
just take a sip of water here.
Oh, that's a video. Sorry, wrong one.
Yeah. Oh, it's all good. Yeah, so right there, you're seeing, if we could pull in a little bit, yeah, it's good. You're seeing that hollowed out coral tree trunk, you know, and that's the neck of the still, essentially, that that they're using. Yeah, and so this batch is about 110 liters of this papalomet produced, and it was all done with ancestral elements to it. So yeah, anybody want to pipe in on the differences they're experiencing in the flavor and aroma profiles between the Tobala of Angelica and the Papalomet from Abdias? And like, you know, what notes are you getting like from the hand of the maker there?
I mean, there's definitely a mouthfeel difference. I'd imagine that's partly because of the cowhide that they use. But there's definitely more of that kind of not astringent, but it definitely has more of kind of a jerky of feel to it. Like, I mean, it's a little drier. It's not as rounded as the Tobala was, but you know, it definitely has a little bit more of that kind of like saltiness to it as well.
Mm, yeah.
Grassy. It tastes kind of grassy.
Which one?
The eucalyptus.
Okay, getting more of the eucalyptus out there, Rody.
Yeah. Well, it hits you when you're smelling it the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A question about the cowhide, the bullhide. How's that treated? Is it just natural?
It's just natural. They're drying it out, and they clean it, they dry it, and then they use it just like that. It's not treated with any chemicals or anything.
Any idea where that came about? What the history of it is? I don't want to get
You know, yeah, no, it's a great question, and I asked Abdias about that, you know, and he said that he didn't know, but he knows that his great grandfathers have been using these same methods of making mezcal for a long time. But what I don't want to say that I know, you know, because Abdias would be the one to know, and he doesn't know. But I mean, one idea that comes to mind is, you know, it could be that they didn't have the resources to get the wood that would be necessary in those in the, you know, times of yore. Maybe they were in an area where there wasn't that many quality woods for making fermentation fats, and so they utilized what was available to them, and that was the bull skins, and it stuck.
It seems pretty unique.
Yes, it is definitely a rare manner of fermenting.
It adds that artisanal value big time to the whole experience.
Yeah, definitely.
You know,
it is.
Sorry, Jed. I was just gonna say, I remember when we sat down and you told me that, like, I remember my eyebrow just like perked up. I was like, sorry, they do what now? And like he had a couple of the pictures that he showed and everything. It was just like, oh, that's really cool. I was like, that's definitely unique. I'm like, yeah, it makes it a whole different level of artisanal for sure.
Yeah, that, and also the that hollowed out coral tree trunk too, you know. So essentially there's a guy that I like to quote. His name is Lou Bank. He has a cool nonprofit that supports some agave restoration, and he says he also has this show called Agave Road Trip, which talks a lot about different agave spirits and gets in the weeds on some stuff. But one of the things that he talks about is there are 400 decisions that are made for every batch of mezcal or agave spirits that are distilled, or every traditional heirloom for agave spirits. And so each one of those decisions has some influence on the flavor, right? And so, for example, with the hand of the maker on Abdias, the bullhide is one of those clear decisions. that is bringing out flavor notes in the expression itself. But there are a lot of other decisions too that go in there that, you know, it's part science, part alchemy, part art. You know, it's like.
So I just wanted to jump back for a second to something you said earlier, Jed, about how they break down the piñas by hand or by with that giant hammer. So I don't know if any of you have seen the process of how these agave plants are broken down, but it's all by hand. There's no easy way to get at it. You basically just have to take either like a spear or machete, like a speared shovel or a machete to these things and just hack off these leaves as you get closer to the piña, and then you take it. At least that's my understanding of it. So you're saying these guys do that and then also smash it by hand. So they have to have like the biggest forearms.
Yeah, they're pretty buff dudes. But yeah, so well, let's go back to something you said. So the first step, right, after you grow it is to cut, to shave, like after it's been left, capon is what it's called, like what I talked about before, where the flower is going to grow and they cut the stalk. You leave that for like 3 months or so, and then after that, I also noticed, y'all, some of the feedback is coming back because I think Laura and Denise don't have the mute on, and I'm getting some feedback. If you would mute it, that'd be awesome.
Oh, I had a comment. That's why I unmuted it.
Oh, I love to hear it.
Well, on the second tequila, I would say it grows on you. The smell is different than the first one. On the first one, it's almost like it's perfume or something. It's so pleasant. But the second one, the first smell is not. But by the time you have that third sip, you do want a fourth sip. It starts to, it starts to get better and better. So I can't wait till later. That's it.
Thank you, Denise. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks. And I would love to also highlight something there, which is, you know, the Tobala, it is more, yeah, it's got funkier flavors, right? And another thing is that flavor is so subjective too. And so, you know, some people like really floral or fruity mezcals, where other people kind of like savory ones, or like, you know, some kind of spicy ones and stuff. So as you dive into these agave spirits, there's just such a variety of flavor profiles that just, for me, blows my mind. And then you start to dive into the mezcaleros, their stories, the traditions behind it, how the agaves look and how they're made. And it's just like, I dedicated my whole life to this now. But yeah, there's definitely a lot going on there. And thank you for that comment, Denise.
And that was another reason why we at the Wine Country decided to do this event with these agave spirits, because we had the chance with this tasting kit. Because you get to try 5 very distinct ones. So, you know, if one's not for you and the next one could be, or, you know, you might be in love with all of them. But yeah, that was a really cool thing about this, was it gave you a chance to try 5 different agave spirits that you usually wouldn't be able to try this, you know, and this easily.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I think that that's important also, Jeremy, because sometimes people like are not familiar with mezcal or with agave spirits. And so they maybe have tried an expression that they didn't like, that was maybe most likely one of these pretty large mass-produced brands. And they say, oh, I don't like it. It reminds me of this night I got really messed up on tequila when I was a kid. I didn't know what I was doing. I don't like mezcal. But, you know, I've heard that a bunch of times. But then when you really sit with it and sip it in this respectful kind of way, and you take your time with it to dive into it, I mean, in my opinion, if you like drinking, it's hard to not like it because there's so much different variety of flavors. It's not like it's just only one flavor, you know? Yeah, but something that I think that brings me to another one, because we're going to go back now and try the quiche. I like to try the quiche, which is also made by Angelica, but I wanted to touch upon something that, like the sacred component of this. And this is a drink that has been around for at least 500 years, if not longer. So there's debate today about whether or not the Spaniards brought distillation to Mexico. And there is some evidence in a region a little bit north of Puebla called Tlaxcala, where they have found certain clay stills that date prior to colonization. And so these spirits are also used in traditional ways in the communities, such as weddings, funerals. If you go to ask for the hand of a woman in marriage, you are traditionally expected to bring 3 bottles of mezcal. And so I feel like in my personal consumption and the way that I like to present Luneta is that I like to encourage people to really feel like that, or like take it as kind of a ritual, as a spiritual endeavor, rather than just kind of like getting messed up on a weekend or something, you know.
And we have a video that kind of represents that a little bit, right, Jed?
Exactly, Jeremy. You're one step ahead of me, man. Could you actually run that video?
You got it.
Thanks.
That would be
Yeah, if you could pull in a little bit, that'd be awesome.
I think that's as close as I can get. Sorry. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and so that is Berta and Angelica. And we have drank, Angelica is the one in the more purple orange dress. And they're kind of making a blessing on the roast of the agave. And we can maybe play the other video too of that roast. There's another little video. Yeah. And so we haven't tried Berta's expressions yet, but we are going to try her Mexicano soon, but she is, her and Angelica, well, Angelica is her daughter-in-law. And so they both make their agave spirits on the same distillery in Chichicapan, Oaxaca. And maybe there's also one photo there too, Jeremy, that you could pull up that shows the kind of a wide angle view of the roast itself. Yeah, there you go. So you guys can kind of see the scale of this. And if we could pull in a little bit more there. But yeah, so that's the roast right there. And they're gonna cook that for like around 5 days underground to before they mill it. And so, and the longer ones in there are our quiche, which is what we're going to be drinking right now. And so, this is the quiche right here. It's the one with the orange. And so something that we talked about in terms of flavor is the hand of the maker versus the type of the agave. And so now we tried the different hand of the maker, but now we're going to try a different variety of agave with the same maker who made the first one, the Tobala. And so we'll really be tasting the difference in the agave itself in this expression. And so, while you guys dive into that, talk a little bit about it. The quiche takes around 10 to 14 years to grow in the ground. And it is, like you saw in the roast, that was the agave heart. It was already took the leaves off, but it's very tall and lanky agave with like kind of sprouts like this out. And versus the Tobala, it's a very small, kind of like a little button agave almost. And it's only like maybe this big, literally. And so each agave kind of has its own little character in a way. But yeah, so she's making this in a similar style. So that's with the mesquite and a little bit of encino wood, milling with a tahona or a large grindstone drawn by a horse. And she ferments in cypress wood and distills in a small copper pot still. And so yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys about the differences in this flavor compared to the Tobala. And we're like remembering that we're really diving into the difference in the agave, in that flavor of the agave.
Well, the nose was similar to Tobala. Floral. even though it's different type of agave, but it was pretty similar.
Kind of goes to Denise's comment about being perfumey, I think.
Yeah.
And you know, what's coming to me now is that they all three have different personalities. And this one,
Yes.
it's like that big plant with the big bushy leaves is more outgoing. And this is this one's kind of like an extroverted version of, and the other two are kind of closed and to themselves. Kind of going on here a bit, but
I
really
love that you say that. It's I 100% feel that it's like a more outgoing agave. Yeah, definitely more fruity, right? More floral, a little bit more grassy. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
cool that
to
you
turn
say
some
that.
alcohol for the first time. This would probably be the one that I gave them because it's just got a nice little friendliness to it. Just a howdy. Try
Yeah.
This is my karaoke mezcal.
Nice. I like that. Get you outgoing, you know? No, I agree with a little, like, I definitely give some more vegetalness on this. You get a little bit more of that greener, kind of earthier aspect to it. And I really like the lime. At least to me, there's like a lime pop in there. It gives that kind of that more that outgoing, like zippiness, you know, ready to have some fun.
Yeah. Nice. It's good stuff. Cool. Yeah. Well, shall we chase the next one? The Mexicano. And so, oh, also I recommend, I don't know if you've been doing this, everybody, but kind of swishing the mouth. Yeah, I see some folks doing it like in between expressions, just to clean the palate a little bit. But as you guys set up for your next sip, I'll talk a little bit about this expression and some of the story behind it. So as I said before, Berta Vasquez is Angelica's mother-in-law, and Berta, she makes the Mexicano. So Berta, she learned to make mezcal from her grandfather when she was a little girl, and her husband was a mezcalero, but he died, and so she took over as the lead distiller. And one of her sons was also a mezcalero, and he was married to Angelica, but he also tragically passed away in a car accident. And so Angelica now has turned to mezcal to make ends meet. And the two women, they make these expressions in a small town called Chichicapan, Oaxaca, on the same distillery. And so whereas Angelica, she does come from a line of mezcaleros also in terms of her family lineage of at least 3 generations. But Berta has been, she's more new to being the master Angelica, whereas Berta has been the maestra for over 20 years for sure. And she is one of the most renowned female mezcal producers on the planet. She was recently written about in Forbes twice this year. And she was also written about in Vice and some other media coverage. She does sell to a couple brands in the US, but Luneta is the only one that has the Mexicano, this batch. Yeah.
Yeah, exclusive.
But also she's very well known, and I'm happy that she will sell. I always want people to, especially mezcaleros, to be supported and to sell what they got, because we're a small brand. I'm not buying everything that these folks are making, so I want them to have a good livelihood. And just coming from that, like, part of the idea is conserving people's livelihoods and making sure that they preserve these traditions, because like these mezcals, the agaves, they're really rare, but the people that make the mezcal are also really rare. And so like Abdias, actually, he worked for a long time as a gardener in the United States, and he would go home illegally. He would go home and visit his family every 2-3 years or so. And one time he said, Dad, I don't want to go back and suffer in the US anymore. Like, I want you to teach me how to make mezcal. And so Abdias, he came back home and studied with his father, and now he doesn't need to go back up to the United States anymore, you know, and he's been making mezcal now for 10 plus years with his dad as kind of the guardian oversight there. But yeah, so just a little bit about that. But anyway, in terms of the agave itself, this agave takes also like around 10 to 14 years to grow in the ground. It's a different, this is the third agave varietal that we're trying tonight. We had the Potatorum, which is the Tovala and the Papalomer, the Quiche, which is in the Karwinski family, and then the Mexicano, which is scientifically known as a Rodacanta agave.
Okay.
And yeah, she is her process is similar to that of Angelica. She uses the primarily mesquite wood in the roast, and then she does mill with the tahona, the large grindstone drawn by a horse, and then ferments in the cypress wood and distills in, or twice distilled in a small copper pot still. And this is about 160 liter batch of the Mexicano here. Yeah. So what kind of flavors, what kind of aromas, what are you guys picking up?
So far, this is my favorite one, the Mexicano.
Nice.
The flavor is just nice. It smells good, tastes good. I like it. Yes. So far, one more to.
It's
Yeah.
yes, when you smell it.
Could you say that first part again?
It's Denise is we're with Denise on this, both of us. It's like a little kiss when you a little kiss on your nose. It's really so sweet.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the things that they say in terms of mezcal culture is like, hay que darle besos, which is you have to kiss it, you know, where so you just kiss it a little bit rather than taking a big gulp, you know, and that's how it's meant to be consumed, is slowly a besos, or with kisses, essentially. So I love that you bring that up.
Expression of it there.
Yeah.
There's a sort of flavor quality that is elusive to me. I can't put my finger on it. It's completely different than the other two, though. Anybody have any ideas what that is in there? That beautiful
It's a
taste.
different type of agave.
I mistook it for citrusy. It's really bright, but that doesn't quite track.
Yeah, I definitely get a little bit of stone fruitiness on it, like some peachy or like nectarine kind of thing, like something with a little bit more acidity in a stone fruit. But no, I understand that citrus thing too, Michael, because there's a little bit of that like orange zesty kind of like vibrancy to it.
I get a bit of like a blueberry. And hey, Jed, can you mute? Sorry, Jed and I are in the same room. Okay. I typically get like blueberry a little bit. It kind of takes me on a ride. The flavors, they evolve over time, but I also get nutmeg. Yeah, maybe cherry too, maybe a little black cherry.
I picked up a tangerine.
Tangerine, okay, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I love all these descriptions. I mean, again, it's all subjective. For me, I'm definitely getting like plantains on the finish. Like kind of a little bit
banana.
notes.
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah, banana.
And like some fruity kind of like maybe like a blackberry or something like that. But definitely a sweeter mezcal or agave spirit.
We're in. Hola.
Hi.
Hola.
Are we on screen? Let's see.
No, just with video or just sound, excuse me.
Just with sound. Oh, okay.
You can hop on video though if you'd like.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Cool.
Okay, so I'm scanning for some of the info just for the heck of it.
Yeah, like I said, we're gonna send the video to y'all after this too, because we are still recording. So we'll be able to send y'all the video so you can catch up. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, wow.
Cool. Yeah, we're actually on our last expression here,
We're
which
over
is
here.
the verdecino.
Ah, okay, that is.
It's the darker green, smaller one with the darker green label. Or
Yeah,
darker green Vito. Yeah, Verde Chino.
yeah. And so we've been traveling here through liquid. I like to kind of call it like a liquid journey, right? So we've been to Oaxaca. We've been to with the Tobala, the Quiche, and the Mexicano. We've also been to Puebla with
Mexicano, Pueblo,
the
Verde Chino.
Yeah, Verde Chino is the one we're gonna drink. Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
All right, go ahead, Jed.
Yeah, I was just saying, just like on this liquid journey, essentially, we've been to Oaxaca and Puebla with the Papalomet, and now we're going up to Verde Chino. I mean, not to Verde Chino, to San Luis Potosi with the Verde Chino, which is where it's made. And San Luis Potosi is a bit northeast of Mexico City. And, each region has different different agaves that are local to it, as well as different elaboration processes, different styles. And so the Navarro brothers, Daniel and Jesus Navarro, that make the Verde Chino, their family has been crafting this kind of spirit for 100 to 150 years, maybe longer, because there's not record in their family after that. And they're preserving a tradition of their particular elaboration style, which I'm going to touch on in a second, but that goes back at least 400 years. And they do it a little differently. And so we got some videos to show, but I'll talk about it first and then we can go over the videos. But it's an ensemble, which means there are two agaves, Verde and Chino, and they're both in the Salmiana family. And actually, if you want to pull up that photo of the agaves, Jeremy, there's a photo of both agaves in there for you to see. These agaves are very large, and they're slow growing. They take 12 to 16 years to grow these guys in the ground before they're ready to give their flower. And so that first one that's more in the forefront of the photograph, that's the Chino. And then the one in the back is the Verde. So just to give you a little sense of place and of plant, and what they're looking like, and so essentially they're turning those plants into the expression that we're about to drink right now. It still blows my mind all the time, but I don't know if you guys, Anyway, so in the region over there, they don't have that many trees, and so they roast the agave with the masotes, or which are the roots and the leaves, or they call the leaves pencas of the agave, and they're doing it in an above ground earthen oven, whereas all of the other expressions we tried this evening were done in a below ground earthen oven. And then after they roast it, they are milling it with tahona, which is also the grindstone drawn by a horse. But then after that, they do something that none of the other mezcaleros do, which is they use what's almost like a hammock contraption to squeeze out all of the juices before they ferment it. And Jeremy, I'm going to ask you to run a video of that process right now for us to all kind of check out. Yeah, so you can see they're squeezing the juices out. And like they take those fibers and they remove the fibers and only ferment the juices. And so they do the fermentation below ground in a stone and cement vat. And as a starter, to activate the wild yeast. So similar to natural wines, for example, these heirloom agave spirits are all fermented with naturally occurring yeast, which also adds to the flavor profile too of each one. And so, sorry, do you want to say something about that, Jeremy?
Yeah. I was just gonna say, so the first time I watched that video earlier today when you sent it to me, like it just blew my mind. I was like laughing at like how crazy of a process that was. And then it made me laugh at myself because the individual who is like in the tub basically, like looks like she is just doing the most mundane thing. And to me, I'm like, this is amazing. And she's just like, yeah, whatever. This is a Tuesday guy. Like it just made me laugh at myself because I was blown away by that.
Jeremy, I'm right there with you, man. Every time I go up and visit any of the mezcaleros, I'm like a kid in a candy store, just trying to, or like that kid who wants to come over to your house and like touch everything, like they're just like, we're just, another day on the job. But maybe one day you'll come down, Jeremy, and check out one of the distillations.
Oh, don't tease me, dude. I'm totally down.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that offline. But anyway, so after they do the that squeeze, like what we just witnessed there, and the fermentation, they're using a starter, which is pulque, which is this ancient agave beverage that's a fermented beverage also, that is like a lower ABV beverage, but they use that to activate the wild yeast instead of using water as a starter. And so that in that region, it's a little bit colder, and those sugars from the pulque also increase the speed of, or reduce the speed of the fermentation. Whereas some of the other mezcaleros would be fermenting for like a week or more. These guys, they ferment for like 1 or 2 days because of those sugars are just making the active yeast go wild. Yeah. And then in terms of in the distillation for this one, these guys are using a clay pot still, a 3-part clay pot still, which is a totally sealed distillation. And there's also no condenser in the still either. And this particular style of still is called a campanilla still, which has to do with the bell, like essentially a clay pot bell, which is the internal one. So I'll explain it to you guys, and then we have some media to share with you to make it a little more clear. But after they roast that agave and have the fermentation, they put it in the bottom of this clay pot, and then the second clay pot goes on top, and that's where the vapors rise. But on top of that, like I said, there's no condenser, so there's like a small copper bowl that they're constantly swapping cold water out of throughout the entire distillation. And below that copper bowl is another third clay pot, and that's the campanilla, and that little pot only holds up to 17 liters per batch. And so these guys, they're using 4 of those contraptions that I just described above one flame, and they're yielding around 80 to 90 liters per batch. And so I'd love for you, Jeremy, to show us some of the videos. I think there's 2 videos there of that process that can kind of, bring people a little closer in.
So here is one of them.
Yeah, so that right there is he's taking the mezcal out of that campanilla, the smallest third clay pot, after it's kind of ready to go.
Look at that. That's by hand. This guy is, just scooping. It's way more work than most distilleries have to do.
Yeah.
She'll pull it out.
Yeah, and like, so they're actually testing it right now, but then he will also pull it out and pour it out later too. But they're kind of getting some of it to check out if it's, the tiene el sabor that they're looking for, that has the flavor, that they want, and the alcohol volume and stuff too. But yeah,
Sure.
that's it right there. That's that inner clay pot. And then there's another video too, if you could run, that will show a little bit more about that condenser that I was talking about.
It's the mixing one, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Paddles. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the paddles. He's essentially keeping the water cool to make sure that the vapors like drip into and like condense below it and then drip into that little campanilla. And those are the 4 contraptions, essentially, the 4 stills that sit above the flame that I was talking about. And so a very rare style of distillation that is part of the culture and the history of the region. And these this family, the Navarro family, actually received an accolade from the governor of San Luis Potosi, and they were honored as part of the patrimony of the state. And they also won best wild agave, and this first place and second place in 2017, 2018, in the National Encounter Day of Mezcal and Mezcaleros in Mexico City. So these guys, yeah, they're really preserving traditions, you know, that have come for many years.
Well,
See
I
this?
want the best from all of them.
Nice. And why is that?
It's spicy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely get more of the perfumey kind of idea on this one too. It has a more of that floralness in the nose and then on the palate too. But I definitely get that spice aspect that you're talking about too, Rody. Yeah.
So for me, this one was the winner, and then second was Mexicano.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I love what you say about the spicy. You know, I definitely get those notes of chilies, like cooked chili, kind of a little caramel. Yeah, just a very complex spirit. It's something that's rare flavors in terms of the spirits that I've tasted. You know, I haven't tasted many things that are. This is just 100% pure agave. You know, and so there's no additives, there's no chili in it. It's just the flavor of the agave.
Right.
Those agave plants seem to like to be alone, or they like their space when they're out there wild like that. So
Yeah.
too many per acre off of the land they own.
Well, you know, I like that you bring that up. And so all of these agaves, they are wild or semi-cultivated, but the Verde and the Chino, they are 100% wild. So they are not planted. They're just like on the hills, you know, and they go out there with burros or with donkeys to go after they cut it, because you can't go on the road because they're just like literally up little paths, you know, in the mountainsides. And that's where they find them. And after, when they're ready to go, they cut them down and they harvest them and bring them on these donkeys back to the distillery.
So some of them have to stay in flower to propagate the next generation of agave plants for them to harvest, right?
That is 100% correct. And I wanted to say something. One thing is that for Luneta, we donate $1 to agave conservation for every bottle or tasting kit sold. And so we'll work with one of these families at the end of the year to help them have a greenhouse or buy more agave pups or whatever they need in terms of conserving their agaves. So that's something that we are dedicated to as a brand. But also what I wanted to talk to you about, which was you were saying you have to let it flower, right? Which is very important to conserving agaves, but also to conserving the genetic biodiversity of the agave itself. Because a lot of times, especially when you're drinking something like a mass-produced tequila or even a mass-produced espadín, is that they are using the pups or essentially clippings or clones of the agave, and that limits the genetic biodiversity. It's the same as the mother or the father plant that they clipped it off of. Whereas if you go and you grow it from seed, you have more diversity. And that's really important, especially for the long-term health and sustainability of agaves, because what we've seen, for example, in Jalisco, not too long ago, is there's been blight, or there'll be some kind of plague that comes in and wipes out literally millions of agaves because they all contain very similar, or if not the same, genetic makeup. And so just so glad that you said that about having to let them grow. because we can't take, without, it's like sin maguey no hay mezcal, or without agave, there's no mezcal or agave spirits.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same news with cocoa and bananas, and anytime somebody goes into monoculture, it kind of homogenizes everything too, and turns every banana in the world into a Chiquita banana instead of letting them be themselves. So these guys
100%.
themselves, right?
They're wild.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons they have so much personality.
Exactly. And we want to help the mezcaleros help themselves, essentially, to preserve the different heirloom varietals that grow in the regions around their homes and have grown for many, many generations, and hopefully for many more to come.
That, sir, is a noble enterprise.
Without a doubt.
Thank you.
Yeah. And that, yeah, I mean, as you guys have, as you all have seen, through this, our time talking to Jed, like this, he is a very passionate individual. He cares about every one of these people that he works with. He cares about agave. He cares about all of the process that is what makes Luneta. Luneta. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was checking myself with the pronunciation and I messed it up completely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good.
But that was the biggest thing that made me really appreciate these, besides them being beautiful examples of agave spirits, was your passion behind it, Jed. Because like I said, there's plenty of people who can go down to Mexico, and do something where they change the label, they make their own faces on the thing, and then they don't really care about who's the process or who's doing it for them. Where you can see that you wear that passion on your sleeve. And that's, as a small business, we always appreciate that with another small business too.
Yeah, well, thank you for seeing that, Jeremy. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that is all the tasting that we have to do. But it was great to see you all here tonight. I appreciate everybody coming. Thank you for the support. As I said, we will be recording this one, and there will actually be a recording this time. So I will make sure that holds up, and we'll send that out to y'all later today as well, or tonight, excuse me. But yeah, for my last note, I'll let Jed finish out. But again, thank you all for coming. I appreciate you supporting this, especially supporting these small agave producers who, keeping history alive in their regions and doing stuff their family members have been doing for generations. And that's what in the world of spirits, that's what it should be about, is keeping life going. And this is a great example of that.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to say thank you to you, Jeremy, and to the Wine Country for supporting this kind of stuff, because it's you gotta believe in it and value it and take the time with it. It's not something that's so commercial, or there's some depth to it. So thank you for that. And I also want to open it up to anybody who's here with us tonight to ask any questions right now. Yeah, and also if you ever want to reach out to me, my email is jed@lunetaspirits.com. I'm happy to talk about agaves all day. I'm here right now, and please share any questions, any comments. I'm an open book.
Yeah.
This was a fantastic show. This was a lot of fun. I feel like I learned a lot, and you're sending some good stuff our way, Jed. Thank you very
awesome.
much. Be real.
Thank you.
I appreciate the indigenous style of learning of this great adventure with something that you can't find out about just by reading a label. I was wondering if you had tours or folks can come down and visit that part of Mexico, and or how let's trace forward, because this is fantastic.
Yeah, right now we don't have tours.
Okay.
But it is something that I am considering. And if we get enough people to want to do it, we can go and set something up like that. And so if you guys want to join the mailing list, it's at lunetaspirits.com. And just subscribe, and we'll definitely keep you posted if we are going to do anything like that.
Okay, it's a unique adventure just by sitting here and trying it, but I'm sure there's
and then in terms of the location itself, so we are working with, like I said, different regions, right? And always with one family, like I'm never gonna take, maybe I don't have enough Papalomet from Abdias. I'm never gonna go find another guy and put his mezcal and mix it with Abdias. Never.
Right. Yeah.
It'll just be
You don't
only a
wanna
couple
You
bottles.
don't want to do that. Right.
No, I don't.
This is
And
pure.
so, exactly, it is 100% pure.
100% pure.
And in terms of the transparency behind who makes it, where it comes from, and all that stuff. And so the regions that it comes from, they're actually throughout Mexico. They're different. So they're like, if you went, it would be like, if we did do a tour, it would be like maybe one or maybe two of the distilleries, but like all, like it would be like a 15-hour drive to get between all of the distilleries,
Yeah, you mentioned the Verde and then the Chino.
Yeah.
I've seen the Verde plant grow up in the mountains where I used to live, the Santa Monica Mountains. And we have a couple of large ones growing on the property where I used to live. And I noticed the shape of the leaves, one pointed in like that and the other one pointed outward. So you can tell the difference. Is that correct? Is that
well, so
I
with the
noticed the
Verde,
plant looked very familiar.
yeah, so they are both in the Salmiana family. The Chino, it has more of the pencas or the leaves, and they're hooked. The spines, essentially, I guess it's called. They have a more curly hook. Yeah, and so that is the visual difference between the Verde and the Chino. And also the Verde is very, very green. Verdant green. Yeah, they're all green, obviously, but the Verde especially very, very green.
So they're indigenous to the southwest coast.
This is actually northeast of Mexico City.
Oh, okay. So it goes as far as the border, or?
Yeah, I mean, they grow in different regions too, and there's definitely a possibility that it's up here in the Santa Monica Mountains too.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
because I've noticed some familiar looking cacti up there. So.
Yeah, I think there is another one though that looks the century plant. The century plant.
The century plant, right?
Yeah, it looks similar, but it's a little different strain. Yeah.
Okay, because maybe I couldn't distinguish between a century plant, a common century plant, and then a Verde or a Chino.
Yeah, this is something that is a lifelong journey in terms of learning about each of the agaves. And, as I expand Luneta too, I want to bring in even more different types of agaves too, because I mean, it's a small brand.
Bring it
just
on.
starting out. But I want to be bringing in all kinds of crazy stuff because there's so much to explore.
Yes.
Jed's gonna have multiple tasting kits for everybody.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So Jared, going to have this in stock?
Yeah, so the tasting kits are going to stay in stock with us. We also do have the 375s of the 3 that are available from them. So that'd be the Mexicano, the Verde Chino, and then it's also the Papalote, right?
Papalomet, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, those are the 3 that we also have in the 375s, which are really cool because those are also, you can see them on Jed's table. They're this green bottles, so they're actually recycled Coca-Cola bottles, correct?
No, they're not Coca-Cola, but they are recycled glass.
Okay.
So they are made with hand-blown recycled glass. And the labels, as well as the labels on the tasting kits, are made with upcycled agave fibers. So, and the alcohol volume is all, as well as the bottle number and the label, I mean, the lot number is all handwritten in there. The tops are sealed with biodegradable wax that kind of smells like eucalyptus. And then we had to do 3 different conical wooden corks, 3 different sizes, because literally every bottle of the hand blown 375 is different. Right. Because so yeah, we're trying to do best practices here. I'm not going to say it's sustainable, but it's definitely on my mind, and I'm trying to do what I can.
Yeah, good job.
Like you're getting close there, Jed.
Thank you.
You're taking all the right steps, that's for sure. It's beautiful.
Appreciate that.
Push that forward, man. That's exciting to a lot of us that you're working hard towards that. It's the way of the future, really. It's very cool.
Oh my God, this is
We're happy to hear that, Jeremy, you're gonna get some of that, more of that to us.
Oh yeah, no, they're already in
Yeah.
store. Like we have the 375s, and yeah, I got more of the tasting kits yesterday because we sold out on Wednesday, and then Jed brought some over yesterday, so we still got more of those just all set up now too. So yeah.
Dude, you're a hazard to our 401ks.
Uh,
Nice.
yeah, this was awesome. Jed, thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it. Super excited that we got to do this. And again, thank you all of y'all who, wanted to learn a little bit more about wild agave. We wanted to, see what Jed was doing. And, I hope you all enjoyed as much as I have. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you all. And please, if you liked it, please
Gracias.
tell a friend. Send them
Yeah.
over to Jeremy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Will
Yeah.
do that.
We got more tasting kits.
Yeah, and that's really how the small businesses like this grow, is like by word of mouth. So really appreciate everybody being here, taking your time with us tonight, and telling your community about it too. So thank you.
And I will say, we'll have this, I'll be posting this on the Wine Country's page as well. So yeah, if y'all have friends who want to, try as well, but couldn't be here tonight, they can watch the recording as they enjoy themselves too. So yeah.
That's great. All right.
Cool. All right, thank you guys.
Yeah.
Have a good
Everybody
Friday
have
night.
a great weekend. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Gracias.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ciao.